What's going on, you guys? Your boy Bill Mahari here, representing Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. No need for the introduction and lengthy all that stuff. I'm just gonna go straight to the point. As of this moment, right now, the Baseball Hall of Fame is officially irrelevant. You can pretty much say that no one will forever take the Baseball Hall of Fame seriously. And you ask, well, what are you talking about? Well, as of today, um, David Ortiz, who was tested positive for steroids during his playing career, is officially in the Baseball Hall of Fame and received 77% of the vote on this first ballot in the Hall of Fame. Okay? That means that other guys that have been on the ballot for the last 10 years, guys like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling, now their names are going to be forever left off of the Baseball Writers Association of America in terms of voting into the Hall of Fame. As of this moment right now, the Baseball Hall of Fame has sealed its deathbed. There is no way you could tell me that any that Baseball Hall of Fame is going to be taken seriously anymore without those guys including in it. Because what these writers had decided to do was blackball an entire generation of players that pretty much dominated an era. All right. And now, sadly, Bonds, Clemens, and Schilling, their names are going to be added to a similar fate of guys like Mark McGwire, who finished with 583 career home runs, and Sammy Sosa. Trust me, his name will be included into that conversation. Okay, with 609 career home runs. Manny Ramirez, the greatest right-handed hitter of all time, 12-time All-Star. We know this. All right. We already know what Curt Schilling was able to do throughout his career. 11-2 in the postseason with 3 World Series championships. And Alex Rodriguez, who finished with 696 career home runs. Those players were pretty much a representation of a generation of great baseball players. And I know the simple argument is, oh, these guys use steroids. They're pretty much used for performance-enhancing drugs. Let me break something very, very clear to you. I'm going to keep saying this over and over again. And I know the OG 2 Raw from TV has said that many times before. Okay? When the baseball strike ended in 1995, baseball needed something to get fans into the seats. Okay? And what was the best way to do it? The home run. Guys like the Albert Bells, guys like, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr., even though he never took drugs anyway. But I'm just using their names to illustrate the point. They needed stars. They needed the influence of the home run to bring fans into the seats. And you mean to tell me that you're going to basically eradicate an entire generation of players that pretty much dominated that critical period of baseball? This is one of the reasons why that baseball can no longer be taken seriously anymore. It's no longer the so-called America's pastime anymore because now people are seeing it for what it is. It's basically much a hypocritical sport where the reporters out there will play favorites to certain players and will blackball players that they do not like. When they decided to not vote Bonds and Clemens in, that's when you realize that this is pretty much a a blackballing job at the highest proportions. There's no way you can tell me that those guys, the guys that I named, don't belong in the Hall of Fame. And now their names are going to have to be weighted by the Veterans Committee. And the sad part is the Veterans Committee only meet probably once every 4 years. So it's going to pretty much take a long time before these guys can really get into the Hall of Fame. And here's the other thing too. This shouldn't have to take the Veterans Committee to pretty much clean up the mess of the Baseball Writers Association of America, that the mess that they created. Okay? You can't tell me that Mike Messina, who never won a Cy Young Award throughout his entire career, is a Hall of Famer. Larry Walker, I'm sorry. I never saw him as a Hall of Famer. Same with Jeff Bagwell. Same for Chipper Jones. Okay? N- Names that you can name: Mike Piazza, Ivan Rodriguez. Those guys, I'm telling you, you're gonna put those guys in there, and they had alleged steroid use, with the exception of Chipper Jones and Messina, you and Larry Walker. You mean to tell me that those guys that I just named, they belong in the Hall of Fame? but you don't put Bonds and Clemens in there, I'm telling you, the the entire Baseball Writers Association of America should be either revamped with young writers that could pretty much call out on the double standards, or just eradicate that entire group from voting into the Baseball Hall of Fame for good. Because right now, what they pretty much did was they pretty much made the entire Baseball Hall of Fame completely obsolete. It is made They made the entire museum completely irrelevant, because what you're pretty much are doing is you are basically eradicating a critical point in baseball history, because you're trying to what proceed to protect the integrity of the sport, in which of a sport that's never shown to have any integrity in the first place. Okay, why do you think Shoeless Joe Saxon has not even been voted into the Hall of Fame, despite having no involvement in that horrific Black Sox scandal? Okay, Pete Rose, you know what he's done with his gambling, but he should be reinstated back into baseball and be voted into the Hall of Fame. See, this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. The media, as of this point right now, should not be taken any seriously at this point, because you didn't vote for those guys because you didn't like them. All right. This is what I was concerned about. This is one of the reasons why I walked away from the media thing years ago, because I got disgusted at writers that continuously play biases and don't call it for how they see it. They always want to be the ones to get it first, or they want to be the ones to give out the best, juiciest story instead of showing the true, honest stories. Now, I know there's still some good ones out there, but a lot of them are hiding behind the shadows of the bad ones. So at this point right now, the Baseball Writers Association of America should be stripped of their ability to vote any players to the Hall of Fame because of what they did as of now. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Curt Schilling, they should have been first ballot Hall of Famers off the jump. But because of the fact that they basically played favorites with certain players and they didn't like all three of those guys, they pretty much left them off the Hall of Fame ballot. And you voted David Ortiz in, and he did use steroids. So at the end of the day, the Baseball Writers Association of America is going to forever be tainted by their lack of seeing it of how it's supposed to be shown. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Curt Schilling are Hall of Famers. There's nothing to be said. The numbers speak for themselves. And just because you don't like them does not mean you have the right to pretty much tarnish their legacy or strip them of their moment of glory. So that just is what it is, man. But it's just a damn shame that they pretty much did this to these three guys. And David Ortiz gets in on the first ballot. I want y'all to think about that. David Ortiz as a first ballot Hall of Famer, despite the fact that he tested positive for steroids. That should let you know where the Baseball Hall of Fame stands at this particular point. So it just is what it is, man. But tell me what y'all think in the comment section below. And with that, I'm out. Peace.